The night my granddaughter whispered that terrifying sentence into my ear, my heart nearly stopped. "Grandpa, tonight my parents are going to take away your fortune." Her small fingers trembled as she clutched my sleeve. The fear in her wide brown eyes wasn't childish imagination. It was real. And suddenly, the quiet dinner table didn't feel safe anymore. My name is Norman, and I am 55 years old. I have spent most of my life building something from nothing. A small repair shop I opened in my 20s eventually grew into a chain of auto service centers across the state. The fortune people talk about now wasn't handed to me. It came from decades of sweat, sleepless nights, and sacrifices. But the most painful truth I learned that night was this: sometimes the people closest to you are the ones planning to take everything. The uneasy dinner. That evening had started normally. My son Kevin, his wife Laura, and their daughter Emily had come over for dinner. They insisted on cooking for me. "Dad, you've done so much for us," Kevin said with an unusual smile. "Let us treat you tonight." That alone should have made me suspicious. Kevin was rarely the sentimental type. Still, I pushed the thought away. Maybe he was finally maturing. The dining room smelled of roasted chicken and herbs. Laura poured wine into my glass while Kevin chatted about business opportunities. Emily sat quietly beside me, pushing peas around her plate. Something about her silence bothered me. Usually, she was the loudest person in the room. Halfway through dinner, she tugged my sleeve. "Grandpa, can I talk to you?" "Of course, sweetheart." She leaned closer until her lips were nearly touching my ear. Then she whispered the sentence that froze my blood. "Tonight, my parents are going to take away your fortune." A child's warning. I stared at her. "Emily, what do you mean?" Her eyes darted nervously toward the kitchen, where Kevin and Laura were talking quietly. "I heard them talking yesterday," she whispered. "They said tonight everything will finally belong to them." My stomach twisted. "Did they say how?" Emily nodded slowly. "They said you'll sign the papers after dinner." "Papers?" My mind raced. Kevin returned to the table just then with dessert. "Everything all right?" he asked. Emily immediately went quiet. I forced a smile. "Yes, everything's fine." But inside, my thoughts were spinning. The papers. After dessert, Kevin leaned back in his chair casually. "Dad, there's actually something we wanted to talk to you about." Of course there was. Laura pulled a folder from her purse and placed it neatly on the table. "There are some documents we'd like you to review," she said sweetly. My chest tightened. "Documents for what?" Kevin cleared his throat. "Well, you're not getting any younger, Dad." 55 suddenly sounded ancient the way he said it. "We were thinking it might be smart to transfer some of your assets now," he continued, "to make things easier later." Emily's fingers gripped my hand under the table. Her warning echoed in my mind. "They're going to take away your fortune." The trap reveals itself. Kevin slid the papers toward me. "It's just a simple transfer," he said. "Your businesses, the house, investments, nothing complicated." Nothing complicated. Just everything I owned. I flipped through the pages slowly. The legal language was dense, but the meaning was clear. Total ownership transfer. Once signed, Kevin would control everything. My entire life's work. I looked up. "Why the rush?" Kevin smiled tightly. "Well, it's just practical planning." Laura added softly, "And honestly, you deserve to relax now." Relax. Translation: step aside. I leaned back in my chair. "Interesting." Kevin frowned slightly. "What do you mean?" I tapped the papers. "You're asking me to hand over everything tonight." Kevin's voice hardened. "We're family, Dad." A lifetime of warning signs. Suddenly, memories started connecting. Kevin asking strange questions about my accounts. Laura pushing me to simplify my finances. Their sudden eagerness to visit more often. It wasn't love. It was preparation. Emily squeezed my hand again. Her eyes silently begged me not to sign. And I realized something painful. The only honest person in the room was the child. Playing along. I closed the folder slowly. Kevin leaned forward eagerly. So what do you think? I forced a thoughtful expression. Well, it's a big decision. Laura smiled reassuringly. Of course, take your time. But Kevin couldn't hide his impatience. Honestly, Dad, the sooner we do it, the better. I nodded slowly. You're right. Kevin's eyes lit up. Great, so you'll sign. I looked directly at him. Let's call my lawyer first. The room instantly went silent. The mask slipped. Kevin's smile disappeared. Why would we need a lawyer? Laura's tone sharpened slightly. It's just family paperwork. Exactly. That was the problem. I folded my hands calmly. Anything involving my entire fortune deserves legal review. Kevin sighed loudly. Dad, you're making this complicated. Emily whispered quietly beside me. Grandpa. I patted her hand. It's okay. But Kevin's patience was clearly gone. Do you trust us or not? He demanded. I met his eyes. Trust isn't the issue. It sounds like it is. The truth emerges. I stood up slowly. I built my business from a one-car garage, I said. No help, no shortcuts. Kevin crossed his arms. And I didn't build it to give it away because someone asked nicely. Laura's polite mask cracked. We're not strangers, Norman. No, I said quietly. You're worse. The words shocked even me. Kevin slammed his hand on the table. This is ridiculous. Emily flinched. I looked down at her gently. Sweetheart, would you mind waiting in the living room? She hesitated, then nodded and left. The moment she was gone, Kevin's anger exploded. The confrontation. You're being paranoid, he shouted. Am I? I held up the papers. These documents transfer everything to you immediately. Kevin shrugged. So it leaves me with nothing. Laura scoffed. You'd still live here. Live here. In my own house. Under their control. I shook my head slowly. You really thought I wouldn't notice? Kevin leaned closer. Your old dad. The insult hung in the air. And honestly, the business needs younger leadership. I laughed quietly. Leadership or ownership? Kevin didn't answer. The hidden backup plan. What Kevin didn't know was this. 3 months earlier, I had already updated my will. Not because I distrusted him, but because my lawyer insisted it was time. And that document contained a surprise. A very big one. I walked toward the phone. Kevin's voice followed me. If you call your lawyer, this becomes a whole thing. I turned back. It already is. I dialed the number. The unexpected revelation. 30 minutes later, my lawyer, Mr. Harrison, arrived. He reviewed the documents silently. Then he looked up at Kevin. Interesting proposal. Kevin tried to sound confident. It's just estate planning. Mr. Harrison shook his head. No, it's immediate asset seizure. Laura stiffened. That's not true. The lawyer closed the folder. Fortunately, Mr. Norman already protected himself. Kevin blinked. What do you mean? Mr. Harrison smiled slightly. Your father transferred ownership of his businesses to a trust months ago. Kevin's face went pale. A trust? Yes, the lawyer said calmly. Controlled by Mr. Norman during his lifetime. Kevin's voice shook. So nothing changes. Actually, the lawyer replied, it does. The ultimate twist. Mr. Harrison turned to me. Would you like me to explain the beneficiary structure? I nodded. Kevin looked confused. What beneficiary structure? The lawyer opened another document. When Mr. Norman passes away, the trust assets will transfer to the primary beneficiary. Kevin leaned forward eagerly. Exactly. Mr. Harrison looked directly at him. The primary beneficiary is Emily. The room fell silent. Laura's jaw dropped. Kevin stared in disbelief. My daughter? Yes. Not me. Mr. Harrison shook his head. You are listed only as a secondary guardian, not the owner. Kevin looked at me like I had betrayed him. You gave everything to a child. I smiled softly. No. I gave it to the only person who truly cared about me tonight. A child's integrity. Emily had warned me. She could have stayed quiet. She could have let her parents take everything. But she chose honesty. And that meant more than any blood relationship. Kevin stood up angrily. This is insane. Laura grabbed her purse. Let's go. They stormed out of the house without another word. The door slammed, and the silence afterward felt strangely peaceful. The conversation with Emily. A few minutes later, Emily peeked into the room. Grandpa. I knelt down beside her. You were very brave tonight. Her voice trembled. Are you mad at Mom and Dad? I sighed. I'm disappointed. She hugged me tightly. I didn't want them to hurt you. I hugged her back. They didn't. Because of you. Life after that night. Kevin didn't speak to me for months after that. Eventually, he tried to reconnect. But things were never the same. Trust once broken is hard to rebuild. Emily, however, visited every weekend. We talked. We worked in the garage together. I started teaching her about the business. Not because she would inherit it, but because she deserved the chance. Final reflection. Looking back now, I realize something important. Greed doesn't appear overnight. It grows slowly, quietly, hidden behind smiles and polite conversations. But honesty, even when it comes from a child, shines like a lighthouse in the dark. And sometimes the smallest voice in the room is the one that saves everything.